Yeah, I love, by the way, that everyone thinks I hate Sonic, because I don't hate Sonic, but maybe I do. What's going on, everyone? Dave here.
And Joe.
We are TND Video Games, and we own a store in Ottawa, Ontario, and today we're going to be answering some of your questions.
Lee asks, what's your first video game memory?
Yeah.
And I must say, Lee had a lot of really good questions, but we're going to go with that one because some of them could be their own video topic.
Yeah,
so we'll save those.
Yeah.
So first video game memory for me was getting the original NES on a family trip in Florida. So my mom took me to Disneyland. Do not remember anything about Disneyland. Don't care about Disneyland. Just remember my grandparents lived in Florida in the wintertime. So my mom was one of 5 kids. So her and like all of my other aunts and uncles and cousins would go down in the winter and basically go visit. Yeah. So we did Disneyland, and then my grandpa wanted something for the kids to do. So he went and bought a Nintendo. And I just happened to be there when he bought it. So I got to take it out of the box and hook it up to his TV and play with it. And so for the rest of that week, I just played Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. I remember we thought the Koopa Troopas were ducks instead of turtles. You know, the graphics weren't that good. We didn't know. You had to read the instruction manual. Yeah. I could barely read at the time anyway. But yeah,
nice.
that's my first memory.
How old were you?
5 or 6, I think.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, like grade 1.
Nice.
So
sweet.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing Atari as a kid. Because I'm what, like 3 or 4 years older.
You're
than
pretty
you.
old. So.
I have much more experience.
Actually, right? I do remember my cousins playing an Atari, but like I paid no attention to it because I was like 2-3 years old. Like
I have vague memories of the Atari, but like I remember being at my cousin's house one day and he had Super Mario Brothers for the NES, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, you know, when you saw that as a kid, it was like boom, you know, like your mind exploded. And I played it at his house, and I was so addicted. Like just the idea of moving across the screen and jumping. And and then my dad eventually got us the system with the game for Christmas, and that was like, you know.
Oh, I have to ask, did you do this when you were trying to jump on the flagpole? I did that when I first started. I would like actually like try and move the controller.
It's funny, man.
And that's what what moms do video games. But I would literally go like
noobs do that. I remember playing with some of my old stepbrothers at their house one day, and like we're just sitting there, and then one of them goes like this, smashes me in the face.
Okay, so
and
I wasn't the only
one. So we needed motion controls before motion controls were a thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the earliest video game memory. So
nice.
Yeah.
Good question, Lee. Thanks.
Cool. So we got Peter asking us here: do you wish publishers would re-release games for older systems? And yeah, you can start on that one.
Well, because he was kind of asking, like, I think what he's getting at is like a full-on re-release where you wouldn't be able to distinguish from the original one, because he talks about it lowering the price for the collectible copy. And then making it more affordable for everybody, which like my whole thought on that is I want everyone to be able to play every game. And now obviously you can just do emulation, that's pretty easy. But if you feel bad about that or feel like you're stealing, or you actually want to support the developers of a game, like I totally support re-releases. They're happening a lot more lately. But I don't see the value in re-releasing, like, say, Little Samson, like the actual NES cart in the exact same form where you can't tell the difference. Number one, people will eventually be able to tell the difference and distinguish between a first and second part. So all that's really going to do is trick someone into paying more money for the not more valuable copy, I think.
But I think truthfully, too, like, people wouldn't want to play it on the original NES. Like, some people would. But more people that want that game re-released, they want it re-released on the Switch, right? Like,
yeah, or a newer system.
Or even like a PS5 or something.
Well, yeah, because you can just go on AliExpress and buy a little Samsung cart for like 20 or 30 bucks. But yet the cart still is worth over 3,000 Canadian, so there's still a demand to have the original thing.
Yeah.
So I like for those Taito games, like Little Samson, Panic Restaurant, Flintstones 2, Power Blade 2, like those really expensive ones, just throw them all on a Switch cart for 30
Make
bucks.
A compilation.
And then let people buy them. They can play them legitimately. And the people who originally created those games that didn't sell well can actually make some money off their work, like however many years later, or whoever owns the intellectual property. I know Limited Run Games is doing a lot of that stuff, but they're also just they're releasing crap like Bill and Ted on the NES, like just to make money. Like,
what do you mean crap? That's
like who needs a Bill and Ted for the
copy of that game.
But that's the original one, so that's kind of cool though, because the original stuff was never meant to be collected. Yes, and that's what makes it collectible, right?
And people that collect it want the physical copy. Yeah. So those prices, if anything, they're going to keep going up. And so if you're going to re-release games on a compilation, you don't want it to affect the price of the older games.
Exactly.
By putting it, like when you put it in the compilations, it's not going to affect the price.
Not as much.
It shouldn't anyway.
Like I think if they released like Panzer Dragoon Saga, they ported it to the Switch or the PS5 or whatever. I think the value of the original one might go down a little bit, but then what happens a lot at the store, like when Metroid Prime got remade for the Switch, we were like selling out a Metroid Prime for the GameCube, so it can actually have the opposite effect.
It often does, at least temporarily. Like the Silent Hill was re-released, and then those games spiked.
Boom. Yeah.
Yeah, so an example like that. So, yeah, it's a good question, and I think you just definitely want to make sure that you're not affecting the price of the older games. But there are so many games that I'd love to have, I guess re-released, and not even necessarily updated graphics. Just like
just a way to play it legitimately, and like a way to again reward the people who made it, like have them make some money off of it.
Yeah, totally. Sure. So we have Stefan here who asks, games for each system we want to see come through the store, and what games do we want that we don't have?
I took his question that way because, like, games we want... Basically, we want things to come through the store that will sell well.
Yes. We do appreciate sales at the store.
But realistically, though, if something came through that, like, was our Grail game, then, like, we would end up, like, working out a deal to keep it. So...
Sure.
Like, I don't know if you want to...
Yeah, like, I mean, I like it when, like... it's not about money, it's about the rarity of a game. So we get a rare game, and it comes in, and it sells, and someone's really happy... Like, that's cool. Like when we sold Cowboy Kid,
to
Jordan, like that was really cool. Like that's a rare game, and it's an expensive game. But like, so I think like the title games, like we've never had Panic Restaurant. It'd be cool to have that game and then to sell it to somebody who's looking for it. Obviously, Little Samson, Flintstones. But like those are just cool games that if someone was really looking for them, to have them locally, to sell them locally, I'd like to have that experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. To like help someone, like selling Trevor Arrow Fighters. For his Super Nintendo set. That. Like that was cool to get.
Or like last week we sold like a copy of Hagane to someone.
Yeah.
Like, and he was like stoked to get it, and he's like, I've never seen it in person.
He was jazzed.
He was totally jazzed. So. I think it's cool when you sell those games. I said Super Bowling because I want that game. We've had it before.
Yeah,
when it was like a $100 game, and I think it's like crazy expensive.
Oh, now. For the 64?
For the 64, because it's just like I want to show it and be like, this is a sports game. One of the few that's worth so much money.
Yeah, for sure, and you wouldn't think so.
Yeah, because we've had Sculptor's Cut come to the store.
Yeah.
But those big like NES ones, I think that'd be cool. To get in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I think his question was like, what do you like to see come in? So obviously sellable stuff, but then also it's awesome to get something rare in that someone's looking for.
Totally.
So like they're looking for that item, and you can help them get it.
Yeah. I mean, what games do you want to have? Like that might be a different question we could answer.
I think that's a whole video in itself.
Yeah.
For me, I'll just give one thing: big box Earthbound in really good condition. Definitely wish I bought that on clearance like everyone else. That's like my grail item that I don't have.
Totally.
Okay, so Dan asks items that you sold to that you wish you kept. So the Jaguar, Dan. Thanks a lot.
Okay, I saw that in the notes here. I'm like, you really so.
No, I didn't actually want the Jaguar. I'm just being a smartass.
Oh, okay. I'm like, really, Joe? You wanted the
No, that would apply to Steph's question from before about like we knew Dan and Mel were looking for a Jaguar and we had to tell them when one came in and they came and got it.
That's right.
So no, I didn't want to keep that. Mainly for me, I think because one thing like you and I, when we got the store, like it was definitely the tail end of you trying to get stuff. I was still in get everything mode, but I had to restrain myself because you have to make money on each lot you buy.
Can I share something?
Yeah.
So when we got the store, like, what was it, 6 years ago? We don't even know anymore, but it was like 6.5 years ago. We got, we bought the store, like all the inventory, and we actually talked about this in a previous podcast, actually our first one. And I remember like we got the store and I was looking, I'm like, oh, that's a good game. We can sell that. That's great. I'm glad we had that one in stock. And Joe was like just looking up at all the boxed NES and he's like, okay, I think I want this one.
Yeah, I was like this kid at Christmas time.
And take this one. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, well I get half of that, so that's fine. But I was in the process of culling my collection down, right?
Yeah.
And you were still collecting.
Doing.
Now you're in your culling.
But the thing is, like, so you and I have most of the really good sellable core titles that we want.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I guess not even like a huge regret, but just like maybe I wish I kept more of this stuff, is when we got like some like mint boxed Super Nintendo. And so usually like if a complete in-box collection comes in, I usually already have the cart, so I'm more like, oh, I want the box and the manual, which actually isn't the worst thing because that stuff takes longer to sell. Totally. But like I know we sold like a complete Demon's Crest, and like that would have been cool to have the box and manual. But then again, we sold that for like $500 or $600, so it's like
it's hard, right? Because you're like, I'd like it, but like as a store owner, you have to really balance like that's a lot of money.
Well, because we had to pay a lot of money for that lot.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
And even if I'm gonna like compensate you for taking it, it lowers the profile and the quality of the inventory in the store.
That's
so,
right.
Because someone could come in and trade good stuff towards that game, right? So you don't want it to just not be there.
Yeah, totally.
So you have to think about that too.
That's another question too. Like as a
boxes
store,
and manuals for me.
Yeah,
is what I wish I kept.
Yes.
For certain things.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I don't have regrets about anything that I've sold in the store since we've owned the store. I don't have regrets in
because you just take everything.
I do not take a lot. It's so funny. Like, no, and like we do take the occasional item, right? Like that does happen. But for me anyway, it's very rare because I have everything I need right now, right? So I'm not really in a position where. But I remember when you and I first started, before we owned the store, we were selling stuff we found at garage sales.
Oh yeah,
I was also not in that mode.
Yeah,
and we I don't own the GameCube Mario Party games, for example.
Yeah.
Because when we got those, I sold them because I knew we could get money for them.
For sure.
So like, if I ever wanted to add that to my collection now, I'd have to like, pay Joe half, and like half is not even close to what it was. Like those games are so much more expensive now. But at the same time, I don't need it. Like
you don't need anything, right?
Yeah,
It's all subjective.
But I will share this, and I'm not sure if you thought about this. So in terms of like regrets. Like there are the occasional time where Joe and I want the same game, and those are interesting. Like, and so what we do on our spreadsheets, we'll put like like JL interested, DC interested, right? And we'll say what we're interested in, and then it's rare, but it'll happen where both of us want the same thing. And typically, I think like because we're gentlemen and we're not gonna go have a pistol duel or anything like that.
No, well, and you're like 10 years older than me, so that's not.
I'm just faster. I can just run around you, right?
That's true.
But like we say like, okay, whoever put the work into the lot, like whoever put the coat together, typically is the person that will have the first shot. Or like if Joe's looking for something, we'll figure out. Like when we got that TurboGrafx lot a few years ago, you and I kept a few games from that lot.
Yeah, but that was like we went like tit for tat.
Yeah,
right?
we went back and forth.
Picked a game,
but I had first pick, so it was like
So you were like, I gotta pick a game that I really want that I think Joe wants too.
Yeah, it was like you're doing like a hockey draft, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want McDavid, but I don't want to like appear like I want McDavid. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, but like I don't really have regrets. Everything we sell that's in the store, I'm happy that it sold, and so.
Yeah, we definitely have to make money, so we can't just keep everything.
We do, and it's funny. Like we watch other YouTubers like Retro Rick or like Double Jump Video Games, and like we know they're keeping stuff too. Yeah. And it's like when you get it in, it's just like I don't know. You really got to put your like store hat on before you put your collector hat on. Yeah. Right. Unless like as Joe's saying, like Earthbound, big box Earthbound. If that came in, we would pay a lot to get it in, and then Joe would. Then I'd have to pay for it again, kind of thing. You'd have to pay for it again, but again, it's so rare, right? Yeah, and that's something also like you'd want in the store, like. You would. Just for people to come look at it and potentially trade towards it, right? So Emily asks, most memorable sales, so customers excited or weird items. So like, it's so funny, like I don't know about you, but I look back and I'm like, where's like, I have more recent memories, and I remember selling the, like this was probably a couple of months ago, dude came in from Toronto and he bought like all the dot hack games for the PS2. Yeah. And he was just like swearing like, this is so effing amazing. Oh, look at these effing games. So, he was so jazzed. We had all of them in one. Like, what are the odds you get all of them in the same shot, right? And compared to Toronto prices, he probably paid like, half of what they are there. So he was really excited. And then I remember pandemic starts, we reopened the store many months later, and boom. Yeah. Like everyone is showing up to get their childhood. Mm-hmm. We were selling boxed PS2s, boxed Xboxes, anything boxed, anything CIB was selling. And people were coming in dropping crazy amounts of money on video games, right? And I think more people were at home. All their CERB money, or all their vacation money, or all the money they had
they were gonna do something with and then couldn't, right?
Yeah. So like it was exciting as a store owner, and then you're like, oh crap, I need more games.
Well,
I need more stock.
we were running out of Wii's, which we have so many. We were running out of Wii's and Wii remotes.
Yeah, remember that? We were like,
Yeah.
That's funny. There was a time when we were running out of Wii's.
Like we were buying lots just to get remotes out of them to like break even, just so we could have them.
Also, we talk about Wii's in every single
There you
podcast.
go. Yeah,
It's
for sure.
We talk about Wii's.
For sure.
So what are your summer memories?
So mine was, we talked about it earlier, but getting Trevor that Aero Fighters, and I remember he was gonna come pick it up, and then he had to take his kid to the hospital that night or something. And I remember he was like up all night and then showed up like later. Like we were like, dude, we'll hold it for you for like another week. It's all good.
I think it was like, yeah, sorry, I was in the hot. I was
thinking,
my daughter broke her arm.
Yeah,
I can't pick up the game, and we're like,
that's okay.
It's okay, buddy. we know you're gonna come in and get this game. And he still showed up.
He's still
in the
like
afternoon.
later, like he did the whole dad thing overnight and then got his game. So that one, and then you mentioned pandemic. I think it was during our first outdoor sale after we were allowed to reopen. I remember there was a younger couple, and they dropped, I want to say, like $700 or $800 on Wii and GameCube stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like they bought like a GameCube, like the Mario Parties, Paper Mario, and all that stuff had skyrocketed in price, like over the couple of months leading up to it.
Yeah.
And we kind of asked them, like, you know, like, oh, like were you planning on buying this? Like, was this a planned purchase? Like, I was just surprised they were spending that much money in one shot. Like, especially like grabbing the system. Normally people don't spend that much in their first go. And they mentioned they had a vacation plan, got the money back because they couldn't go, and they already had the time off, so they were like, oh,
I think that's the thing. Like, people were at home and they're like you know, they were reading books more, they were watching more TV, and then people got into video games.
Yeah, or got back into
it because they're like, you need variety. You're always at that, you know. So video games became popular.
Yeah, and so if you had booked like a $2,000 or $3,000 vacation and just got all that money back, and you were still working, like $800, like you need something to do on your time off work, and you couldn't go anywhere. So, like why not?
So those sales were memorable, and I mean, you know, every single week. So Joe works the store, or I work the store, or Frank works the store. We always talk about what sells that day. And it's always exciting to see what sells, right? There are definitely many memorable, you know, interactions with clients. You know, sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're weird.
Yeah, you got to recap the day. Like, what's the funny stuff that happened? What were the cool sales? What were the cool trades?
I call Joe on the way home. He calls me on the way home.
Yep.
When we work the store, and like there's always good funny stories. Right?
Oh, for sure.
So yeah. Although none come to mind right now. But we got Stefan here asks, can we get an episode of Dave finally playing Sonic Mania? So the Magic 8 Ball says doubtful.
Doubtful. So
I don't know what's. Yeah, I love, by the way, that everyone thinks I hate Sonic, because I don't hate Sonic, but maybe I do.
Maybe he's
we're
just overrated.
You know, the thing with Sonic is that it gets compared to Mario.
It's a big
okay, and Mario.
No, you can't do that though. They're two completely different.
I know, but I didn't say I didn't say it should be.
No, and I know you don't do that, but people do that.
So, you know, if you're going to compare the two, it's totally unfair because they're completely different.
They are,
games.
yeah.
And I have obviously I did Nintendo, so I got into Nintendo, and I love my Nintendo games. And Sonic, I tried to get into it. I really did. Like Sonic 1, I got to like the third world or whatever, and I'm like...
Yeah, the first one's kind of meh. 2 is kind of where it's at. Or Sonic Mania.
I know, yeah.
It's really awesome.
Maybe when we live stream one day. You know,
exactly.
We'll do that.
Well, so there's another question. So that was the last Facebook question. So going over to the YouTube questions here. CWN25. Do you know who that is? No? How much to make Dave play Sonic? So what I think we should do is once we're finally set up for it, we'll do some sort of like charity stream.
I was thinking the same thing.
And then we'll have to raise a certain amount of money, and then you'll play it, and then we can give the money to charity.
Or like the food bank, and people can you know, bring food. We used to do food bank drives.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's important.
But we'll actually donate the money. Unlike
we'll actually donate the money, unlike someone else who apparently has not. If you guys are in the community, you know who we're talking about right here. So yeah.
Okay, so the next YouTube one, Travis974. Okay, so how often do you keep games that come in? So we kind of covered that. I will say it's less often than before, because we're both like I think I'm more collecting the newer indie limited print stuff, But for retro stuff, like even just setting up this room, I actually pulled a few things off because I had to move some items around, and I was like, I don't need this. I used to have a full NES cart set. I don't anymore. I have less than half the set, so got rid of a lot of that stuff.
You buy Genesis stuff. I know there's a few Genesis titles.
Yeah, like I'm slowly getting into Sega, but again, like you and I both kind of have everything we really want, so there's not a lot left to get.
Yeah,
like,
I'm the same boat.
Right? So
for me, it's the occasional SNES game, maybe, and then like I don't know, like I'm getting some Switch games here and there, but other than that, it's like, there's not much, and the stuff doesn't come in like, you know. Yeah, because
we have all the core stuff that typically comes in. It's all that obscure stuff. So
it's always the obscure. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So I'm gonna skip down here. Travis asked another question. So one game from your personal collection that you'll never sell. And I mean, it's such a loaded question, right? Because you want to say like,
do you have your actual stuff from when you were a kid though?
No,
because I don't. I have nothing. No. Like my parents got rid of it all, and then I re-got everything.
I gave my Super Nintendo and my N64 with a handful of games to a buddy of mine back when I was like 24, 25.
Okay.
Because I was not into collecting it all.
Yeah.
And he was. So I just gave it to him.
Oh, okay.
And I remember my 007 cart was there, and I had like completed like 007.
Oh, you had like the completed save
I had everything, but not just that, like all the cheat codes.
Oh, yeah.
Minus like one or two of them. So it was like amazing. So, and I tried to get that back from him later, but I think he like got rid of it or something. Yeah. And it was like, oh no.
He probably sold it to buy beer or drugs or something.
Yeah. No, he wouldn't have done that. But anyway, so I you know, but one game I would never sell right now is Yoshi's Island for the Super Nintendo. I absolutely love that game, and my son loves that game.
Okay.
And we have our save files on it. So for me, it's more about that. It's nothing about money. It's like, that's just a game, you know. I mean, you know, if the house is on fire, maybe I'll grab that one and then like Little Samson and then just run the house, you know? Like, but yeah, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, so like I said, I don't have any of my childhood stuff, so mine would probably be Dragon Quest VIII for the PS2, because that was one of the first games that I kind of bought. Like, I was collecting retro stuff. That was one of the first games I actually got, like, I knew when it was coming out. I got excited for it. I remember going to, it was called EB Games, now GameStop. I remember going to EB Games at the Canada Centrum and asking, like, if they were planning on, like, if they were going to get copies or if I could pre-order it, because I was really excited to play it. I'd watched a bunch of gameplay footage of it. And I remember the manager handing me this demo disc for it, and you could play like the first like 3 or 4 hours of the game, and I was super jazzed. Yeah. So went home, played that, and then bought the game when it came out. So it'd probably be like the demo disc that the lady working at the store gave me, because I had no idea that it was even available. So I actually got to go try it out, which was awesome. And then that copy of the game, because that's like I actually bought it day one.
Cool.
So and again, not like that's worth like $50. So
nice.
So I get that, and then my Little Samson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think we'll do one more.
So we'll do Anthony Erdl. So his question, and I thought this was a good question. It's kind of like around your testing policy, right? So like when you get a big lot in. Like kind of what do you do? Because we obviously, like, if you bring us 100 NES games, we don't have time to test them all in front of you. So I know a lot of times, I think he mentioned his question too, like, do your regulars get the benefit of the doubt? And sure, like if we're trading with certain people that we know we don't have to test their stuff.
Yeah.
I know you do this a lot, and I need to do this more, is we'll ask people to just hook the system up and film it working. If it's a big lot, because again, only open Sunday, very busy. So if you show up with stuff, especially unannounced, and we have to do a quote on the spot, if it's like all high end stuff,
it's
then we
challenging.
have to, and so like we typically focus on the high end stuff. Disc based stuff, I'll check the condition of the disc. We do have a Wii hooked up, so we can test GameCube games because they're usually pretty finicky.
Like I mean, like at the end of the day, we do test all of our consoles and controllers. And any really high-end game.
Oh, before we put it out,
for sure. We put it out.
But when we get it in, like it's not.
I think the question was more about the game store, like getting stuff in.
Yeah.
And like it's really hard to test stuff in the store, and oftentimes we'll just go on good faith. I ask people like, do you know if this works? And like it's not the best policy because it's just sometimes it's just so busy.
Yeah.
Right. So we and then we'll test it later.
Well, and you can get a feel too. Like if everything's dirty and dusty, like we're just gonna offer less for it because we're gonna factor in like if I see a Super Nintendo with 4 controllers and they're all beat, like I'm gonna assume like one of them might work.
Yeah.
And then we'll factor in like how much do we have to pay Peter to fix it, right? So we'll deduct that off like the offer.
Yeah, and that totally factors in, right? That if we're gonna have to fix this in the future or refurbish it in some way, then
so we just adjust the offer basically.
Yeah, we do tell people though too, like if you're gonna trade with us, consoles, like hook it up, take a picture of it playing a game, reading a game, and then like that saves you time in the store.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you don't have to wait for us to do it, and we have to serve customers like if someone's waiting to pay for something, I'm gonna get them checked out first, right?
Totally. Yeah. So okay, I think we did good, eh?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, bud.
Hey, we did good, eh? Wait, I think I did 8 in Australia.
Saskatchewan.
I don't. Yeah. Let's not do accents. Cool. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Cheers, guys.
I'm 5'9.5", but I lie and say I'm 5'10".
Yeah, I used to say I was 5'11". I can't say that anymore.
No. Cool.
I think at my best day I was 5'10", but
yeah. All right, ready to go?